Raw, and we're gonna do some reacting today, because that's what all the kids do now, right? They react to things. So, can you hear me out there? Am I sounding good? 9 out of 10 times I start up the stream, everyone's like, "You don't have your microphone on," because StreamYard's garbage. Is it working this time? I stopped paying them. That's why you can see the little thing right there. I stopped giving them my money. I'd give them like $10 a month, but not like $30 a month. They're fucking crazy for asking that. Can you guys hear me? I just want confirmation. Because I don't want to go on for like 20 minutes and then find out no one was hearing me the whole time. Unfortunately, StreamYard is that unreliable that even though I can see the green in the corner and know that my microphone is working, that's not any confirmation. We're dealing with StreamYard. All right, thank you, Urso. I appreciate it. All right, now we know that you can actually hear me because I'm on StreamYard, and that's a whole thing every time you use this platform. We can get into the show. All right, so basically, I knew something weird's going on with this Charlie Kirk thing pretty much right away. Obviously, it's like a disgusting thing that happened, like a guy getting shot and killed in front of a bunch of people. Not the biggest fan of the trauma that everybody has had to deal with as far as that whole situation goes. But there was basically like an example. If you look throughout history, it's pretty similar to something that happened in Nazi Germany, where a guy got killed, and Nazi Germany reacted very violently, and it gave them a lot of excuses to do lots of things. I had this thing. It was a Instagram post that talked about it that I'm trying to find, and I can't find it. Yeah, I'm trying to find it here. Well, whatever. Maybe I'll find it later on.
Crystal Knock?
Crystal Knock?
Yeah.
What's that?
There was this Nazi guy who got killed, and they used it as an excuse to
What was his name?
Look it up Crystal Knock.
Crystal Knock. See, this is what I got cat for. How do I spell it?
It's spelled with a K.
Pogrom. Okay. Nazi German leaders unleashed a nationwide anti-Jewish riot. The violence was supposed to look like an unplanned outburst of popular anger against Jews. In reality, this was state-sponsored vandalism, arson, and terror. The event came to be called Crystal Knock, Night of Broken Glass. Nazis burned more than 1,400 synagogues. Who got killed? It's not mentioning anything about anyone being killed.
Go to the Wikipedia. It was like some 18-year-old it was like some very young 18-year-old young man who got killed, and they used it as an excuse to start Christmas.
Do you think that would be on like the heritage, like the page that was made to memorialize it? You think that would be one of the first things they bring up? But I guess it's not important information.
Yeah, German diplomat Ernst Van Rath.
17 years old got killed. All right, so that's where history is echoing. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. I don't know how long I'm gonna keep this on here. I want people to see it. But it's not my video. It's not my content, really. I just want people to see the information and hang out, talk about it. But so this might be going on to the Patreon. This might get deleted later, so.
I mean, there's just no way.
Which, by the way, free. Going on the Patreon for free. No paywall. Like, this is somebody else's video. I wouldn't do that.
In the turbulent landscape of American conservatism, the assassination of Charlie Kirk has turned into a pivotal moment that has not only shaken the foundations of our country, but has also served to further unite and divide the people of America. One thing, though, that I think we can all agree on is that a government will always lie to its people. A government will always seek to preserve itself, and if that means lying directly to the faces of its own constituents, that's what it will do. And that's what I believe is happening right here, that's playing out right in front of our very eyes. If you want to check where I got the information for this video, there's a resources document in the description. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, but without further ado, let's just dig right into this story. So this video is not going to be political. I'm not going to include any opinions whatsoever about politics, but I think that by the end of this rundown, you are going to believe not only that the government's lying to you, but that the United States government, mainly the FBI under Kash Patel, thinks that you are a stupid, bumbling idiot who cannot possibly tell true from false.
I agree with him there.
I mean, some of the facts that I'm about to present you with are comical. And it doesn't matter if you loved Charlie Kirk or if you hated Charlie Kirk. This story, what we're talking about right now, is about deep corruption within the United States government, and it flows into all other aspects of the US government and our daily lives. Really quick shout out, if you want to watch these videos fully uncensored, please consider joining me on Patreon. There's a link in the description. YouTube frequently demonetizes, age restricts, or even removes my videos, so thank you to everybody on Patreon who is helping to keep this show running. So the official story of Charlie Kirk's shooting goes as follows, if you're somehow unaware at this point. On August 27th of this year, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization, announced the American Comeback Tour, with the inaugural or first event scheduled for September 10th at Utah Valley University, UVU, in Orem, Utah, expecting around 3,000 attendees. Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative activist and Trump ally, had voiced concerns for his own safety in a speech that he delivered in June of this year, and in that speech, eerily, he had highlighted what he believed were the risks that came with holding these campus events, the dangers of appearing on college campuses, talking to kids, and just being out there in the open. Meanwhile, at around that same time, according to the FBI, 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson, an electrical apprentice from St. George, Utah, with no criminal history, began fixating on Charlie Kirk for reasons at this point that are yet to be fully explained in the official story. However, at some point, according to officials, Tyler Robinson decided that he was going to kill Charlie Kirk. So he allegedly came in possession of a budget hunting rifle in early September and began scouting Utah Valley University via social media videos. Now, in early September 2025, a week or so before the shooting, according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson acquires that rifle that he would allegedly go on to use in the shooting and engraved the casings with taunts like "Hey fascist, catch," and other references to online memes. On the evening of September 9th, 2025, Charlie Kirk arrived in Utah. However, it should be noted that no metal detectors were implemented at the outdoor amphitheater. Early that next morning, Tyler Robinson, the future shooter, takes off from his home over 300 miles away and drives his gray Dodge Challenger towards Orem. On September 10th, 2025 at 8:29 a.m., Tyler Robinson parks on the UVU campus, dressed in a black t-shirt with an American flag and eagle, jeans, a baseball cap, sunglasses, and backpack, and attempts to blend into the student crowd. The FBI later stated that at some point, while he was on the roof of the building preparing to take the fatal shot at Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson changes his clothing into a different set of clothes. They said that he arrived on scene wearing something different. The fatal shooting occurred during Charlie Kirk's midday address, shattering the event's patriotic atmosphere and triggering a rapid security response amidst screams from the crowd and rapid evacuations. When the shooting occurred, Charlie Kirk was mid-sentence discussing mass shootings with a student when allegedly a single supersonic round from Tyler Robinson's rifle, fired from a rooftop, struck him right in the neck.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting
counting or not counting gang violence? Great.
The time was 12:23 p.m., and when the bullet struck Kirk in the neck, it caused him to immediately collapse and almost instantly die, despite bystanders and members of Charlie Kirk's team performing onstage CPR and later taking a medevac to a hospital. According to the official story, after shooting Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson then changed back into his original clothing, disassembled his rifle, stuffed all of that in his backpack, and then fled the scene. According to the FBI, Robinson left evidence at the scene like palm prints and a Converse footprint and a screwdriver with his DNA on it. Immediately, a UVU campus lockdown ensued, and the FBI launched a national manhunt, offering up a $100,000 reward, leading to the capture of the shooter. Videos of that graphic moment immediately went viral, which obviously amplified the shock that people all across the world felt when they first heard the story and heard of Charlie Kirk's death. The 33-hour pursuit of Tyler Robinson, according to the FBI, involved over 200 interviews and 7,000 tips, culminating in Tyler's surrender on September 11th. But what led to his surrender? Well, according to the official story, Tyler's mother recognized him in FBI-released suspect photos that began to circulate around midday on September 11th, despite his earlier text to his mom claiming he was homesick in St. George, Utah the previous day. This discrepancy that Tyler's mother noticed prompted her to confront him on the phone, which led to a partial confession where Robinson admitted that he killed Charlie Kirk and expressed fears of a violent police confrontation, and even told his mom that he was thinking of self-deletion. Tyler's parents, registered Republicans with no prior indication of their son's radicalization, immediately sought help from a trusted family friend, who just so happened to be a retired deputy sheriff and a youth pastor, to de-escalate the situation and negotiate safe terms for Tyler's surrender, emphasizing that they did not want a SWAT raid on their home. And from that point on, the FBI knew that they had their man, and they then swept in and arrested him. Now, interestingly, Tyler Robinson's words after his arrest have revealed no distinct ties to any organized groups, but his alleged online paper trail has revealed personal ideological grievances. After Tyler's arrest, charges followed swiftly, with prosecutors publicly saying they want the death penalty for the politically motivated act, which has sparked debates here in America on assassination culture, security lapses, and violent rhetoric. Vigils, Trump's Medal of Freedom Award, and Charlie Kirk's September 21st memorial have drawn massive crowds, while polls in America show that people are becoming more receptive to partisan political violence. As of September 24th, the day that I'm recording this video, investigations are continuing into the potential online radicalization of Tyler Robinson. So, it's very long-winded. I'm sorry. I know you guys probably know that story, and the facts are familiar, but
All right. Batshit crazy alien enjoyer. I just want you to let you know, I don't like you. You're very, very unintelligent. You're literally watching a show that is explaining this. Can somebody actually explain what the evidence and situation is? That's the video. Mister, you should interview Carrot Owens. You can't even fucking look at your own words before you type them. You make yourself look like a total moron. Get off my channel. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I don't need people this fucking stupid consuming my content, all right? If you're that dumb, go watch Teletubbies or something. Get off my fucking channel. Fucking Jesus, dude.
it's very important to stress to you the clear and concise version of the story that the FBI is going with, so that now, like a vulture on a corpse, we can go in and pick it apart piece by piece. And yes.
By the way, guys, Carrot Owens is a big juicer in the juice scene. She talks about gut health. Not to be confused with Candace Owens. We're talking about Carrot Owens. The big juicer was a carrot farm. Look her up.
That is the official story. So, according to those around him, like his friend, family members, people like that, but most importantly, not according to Tyler himself, Tyler Robinson essentially ratted on himself after planning and executing a perfect getaway, and then was taken into custody. But curiously, here's one of the first things that sticks out to me. Tyler Robinson to date has not admitted to the authorities that he is the shooter. He has not spoken to them during interrogations or interviews, and he's provided them with no official corroboration of the story or timeline. He has not stated that it was him that, pulled this whole thing off. He is not the shooter. He said, I couldn't find anything that he said. Like, I don't think he's spoken to the authorities at all. Kind of like, not to draw a comparison, but Lee Harvey Oswald was kind of pulling similar stuff. He was more denying that he was the shooter, but it's just kind of a similar vibe to me in the wake of the JFK shooting. This is where the cracks in the official story, in my opinion, really begin to surface. So I do want to state, this is all opinion. This is just what I'm pointing out. These are the factual things that I believe do not make any sense and point to some sort of larger, more malignant narrative that could exist surrounding the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to suggest to you a person who I think did this, or a group, or a country. I am simply going to put the facts in front of your face. Then you can decide, does this make sense to you, or does it not? And if you want to verify everything that I'm saying, I always post a resources document.
I would say, this was less obvious to me, but the Trump attempted assassination that was the most obviously fake thing ever. And they're just obviously trying to drum up this idea that the radical left, the fear, everybody suddenly has got messages on their bullet casings and stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I really liked Jon Stewart did a show recently or whatever. He talked about it. And every single time there's a shooting now, before we find out, the right-wing people are like, it's probably a left-winger. And the right-wing people are trying to blame left-wing people, and the left-wing people are trying to bring right-wing people. Every time there's a school shooting or an assassination or something like that now. And Jon Stewart put it pretty aptly. Why the fuck are we trying to figure out their political affiliation before we even grieve the people who died? That is crazy. That is a sign that our country is seriously lost. There's probably no coming back from this. Any time that somebody carries out an act of political terror, it's obviously terrible. It doesn't matter who's doing it. Yeah, I think that it speaks to the political discourse right now when they're just trying to find, they want it to be a right winger or a left wing person so bad every time. And then just the really obvious CIA crafted narratives where they write on the bullets and all this stuff. It just seems like a bunch of psyop stuff to divide our country, to get us against each other and divide us. And anyway,
document in the description of this show. So go access the resources document and check out all this evidence. Draw your own conclusions yourself. Before we get into all the strangeness though, I want to show you a somewhat unrelated clip. So I want you to remember all of this evidence, this theory, this story has been presented mainly by the FBI, which is led currently by a man named Kash Patel. Now, interestingly, the FBI immediately took almost all the credit for the investigation and for Tyler Robinson's capture, even though they really didn't even do all that much. It was Tyler Robinson's, parents or family friend, according to the story, who turned him in. They gave the solid lead. The FBI was way behind trying to figure out who he was. But for a moment, let's focus on Kash Patel. Now, a lot of people I know online are just naturally going to trust the FBI. They're going to trust the government. They think that the government cannot lie to them, that they would never lie to them, that they do no wrong. But I think in recent years, we've seen, conspiratorial thought used to be more of a right-leaning, right-wing thing that people were slammed for believing in. It was almost a derogatory term to be called a conspiracy theorist. And it still is for some, a very small group of people. It's still a slanderous term when you call someone, oh, conspiracy theorist. But as we're seeing with Epstein, how many videos have I made on Epstein? I've got so many more coming. That issue is uniting the right and the left, because you can clearly see in real time a government cover-up being put into place. You are actually, it's unprecedented. We are watching as these events transpire, the cover-up not only form, but get sealed into place, glued into place, whatever you'd say. Like, you're seeing these people put the puzzle pieces in and then apply epoxy or I don't know, whatever the hell, resin over the top so that it can never be broken again. It's absolutely crazy. And the guy in charge of the FBI right now is obviously Kash Patel. Back in, when was it, July? Early July or mid-July? 2025, Charlie Kirk arrived in Utah. However, it should be noted that no metal detectors were implemented.
Did I just skip something? I don't know what just happened. That was weird. I just wanted to say that the fact that it got skipped. What just happened? Oh yeah, okay. Patel seems like a useful idiot to me. Like he might have actually believed before he got into the FBI that it was all one big Democrat conspiracy. Like he probably actually believed that, or he was CIA the whole time and spreading that. And I think once he got in, either he already knew or once he got in, he found out. It seems like the latter. He seems like I said, a useful idiot. And now that he's found out, he knows the kind of dirt that these people have on people. And another thing I want to point out too is what's going on with our government and America falling out is because Trump is owned by like Epstein and he's been blackmailed. I just want to show you guys something here. So, this is Kash Patel's girlfriend. And what they teach you in intelligence, I know. Here, I'll share you the screen. Allow. What they teach you in intelligence, not to be a dick, but if you're like a 4 or like a 5, you know, you're not the most attractive guy in the world, and you have a 10 approaching you, super interested in you, flattering you, you're taught to like know if that could be an agent. That probably is an agent, and you probably shouldn't engage. That's all I'm going to say about that. Am I implying anything? I don't know. That's up to you. But, like, does this guy... I mean, yeah, he's famous and stuff like that, you know, now. So, maybe. But I actually think she has connections to the IDF and stuff. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. God, I should have, like, a notes thing on certain... I really need to start taking notes on all this stuff so I can present my... she has an international background. Father served in the U.S. Navy. Son of Armenian immigrants. Country music star. Through the, what did I tell you? Music, military family. His girlfriend's an op. All right? His girlfriend's a handler. All right? So that's just interesting to me. Anyway.
Outdoor amphitheater. Early that next morning, Tyler Robinson, the future shooter, takes off from his home over 300 miles away and drives his gray Dodge Challenger towards Orem. On September 10th, 2025 at 8:29 a.m., Tyler Robinson parks on the UVU campus, dressed in a black t-shirt with an American flag and eagle, jeans, a baseball cap, sunglasses, and backpack, and attempts to blend into the student crowd. The FBI later stated that at some point, while he was on the roof of the building preparing to take the fatal shot at Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson changes his clothing into a different set of clothes. They said that he arrived on scene wearing something different. The fatal shooting occurred during Charlie Kirk's midday address, shattering the event's patriotic atmosphere and triggering a rapid security response amidst screams from the crowd and rapid evacuations. When the shooting occurred, Charlie Kirk was mid-sentence discussing mass shootings with a student when allegedly a single supersonic round from Tyler Robinson's rifle, fired from a rooftop, struck him right in the neck.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
I just want to point out how stupid of an answer that is. Obviously, 1 is too many. Like, I agree with that. Like, one transgender shooter is too many, but that's like any one white cis male shooter or black shooter, doesn't matter. If you're going out there and assassinating somebody or doing mass shootings, that's bad. It doesn't matter whether you're transgender or not. And to act like a demographic that is less than 1% of the country who is statistically nonviolent, and there's been 6 or 7 out of like 2,000 or something crazy trans shooters. It's making a mountain out of a molehill, and it's targeting. It's the classic Nazi Hitler-esque thing of a group that is all powerful and is out to get you and is going to destroy you, and we have to get them. While at the same time, they're all sissy trannies and they're weak and all this shit. It's like two things are simultaneously true. The boogeyman, the monster, everybody should be so afraid of them, and also they are weak, and they're men in dresses. So they're weak. Both things can't simultaneously be true. It's one or the other. And it annoys me that has become discourse right now. Like I don't know how it just happened. I have lots of transgender friends. That's why no amount of disinformation and clickbait articles and all the stuff I see will ever get me to just hate trans people. I have too many trans friends that I love. And in that, I want to say that there's one of my trans friends I had a falling out with because they were a piece of shit. So trans people can be bad people like any other demographic, like the ones who were shooters. Obviously, they weren't good people. But yeah, it's just so silly to act like being trans in itself is dangerous. That is like saying being a white male is dangerous. I mean, statistically, I'd say the white males are dangerous is more of an accurate statistic than saying trans women or trans people in general. It's more of an accurate thing to say white men are dangerous. It's way more accurate because 99% of the people doing these shootings are white men, like Charlie Kirk. But it's much easier to deflect at some tiny group of people that, like I said, is both powerless and yet so powerful. It's mind control. It's doublespeak. It's Orwellian.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh yeah, and I also just want to address this comment before I fold it. Patel has been caught in so many lies. He said Epstein never sold anyone. Yeah, it's a huge lie. And he also said there's no list, but they have 6 binders full of shit containing a list. So just this administration is like the most garbage administration I've ever seen, ever in my entire fucking life. Like, and that's saying a lot. I didn't like any of the administrations I've ever been under my entire life. Not Obama, not Biden, not Bush. None of these people. I don't like any of them. But like Trump has by far been the worst. Like, our country is on fire right now, and it's not because of Antifa rioters. It's because of jackbooted thugs wandering around kidnapping people. That's what's really making our country dangerous right now.
Great.
The time was 12:23 p.m., and when the bullet struck Kirk in the neck, it caused him to immediately collapse and almost instantly die, despite bystanders and members of Charlie Kirk's team performing onstage CPR and later taking a medevac to a hospital. According to the official story, after shooting Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson then changed back into his original clothing, disassembled his rifle, stuffed all...
We already saw this. I don't know. How that even happen? Like, what?
Is the shooter. He has not spoken to them during interrogations or interviews, and he's provided them with no official corroboration of the story or timeline. He has not stated that it was him that, pulled this whole thing off. He is not the shooter. He said, I couldn't find anything that he said. Like, I don't think he's spoken to the authorities at all. Kind of like Not to draw a comparison, but Lee Harvey Oswald was kind of pulling similar stuff. He was more denying that he was a shooter, but it's just kind of a similar vibe to me in the wake of the JFK shooting. This is where the cracks in the official story, in my opinion, really begin to surface. So I do want to state, this is all opinion. This is just what I'm pointing out. These are the factual things that I believe do not make any sense and point to some sort of larger, more malignant narrative that could exist surrounding the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I'm not gonna suggest to you a person who I think did this, or a group, or a country. I am simply gonna put the facts in front of your face. Then you can decide, does this make sense to you or does it not? And
Nathan Fox says he used 30-06, a bullet capable of killing an elk, yet the projectile could not go completely through Kirk's neck. And as usual, even though little details like this are so damning, it's kind of like the steel beams. Nobody cares. Everybody will just believe what the government tells them. While simultaneously, everybody will know that it's a big lie. A lot of people will know it. I guess 9/11 is... It'll probably be like 9/11, right? Where right now it's kind of crazy to say that it was an inside job or planned, but yeah, in the future, yeah, you don't have anything. This guy just doesn't have anything to offer this conversation. Okay, it's just distracting me having this batshit crazy enjoyer guy around. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying. I got distracted by that stupid comment that didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, which is all that guy does, so I banned him.
if you want to verify everything that I'm saying, I always post a resources document in the description of this show. So go access the resources document and check out all this evidence. Draw your own conclusions yourself. Before we get into all the strangeness though, I want to show you a somewhat unrelated clip. So I want you to remember all of this evidence, this theory, this story has been presented mainly by the FBI, which is led currently by a man named Kash Patel. Now, interestingly, the FBI immediately took almost all of the credit for the investigation and for Tyler Robinson's capture, even though they really didn't even do all that much. It was Tyler Robinson's, parents or family friend, according to the story, who turned him in. They gave...
Right, I somehow, it's just so stupid. I don't know how it got rewound. I never rewound anything yet. Here we are. I gotta find where we are again. I don't want to make you guys watch the same shit over and over again. I also don't want to skip anything.
Deleted and
but yeah, Valhalla on YouTube does ballistic and shows that it would have caused much more damage. I believe it, but that doesn't matter. They're just gonna make up the story that they want to make up and just run with it. All right, sorry, I don't want to make you guys.
Now, interestingly, the FBI immediately took almost all the credit for the...
We might skip
Epstein never trafficked anyone.
a tiny bit of information.
Also begins to crumble with that.
For the FBI director, then it wouldn't have happened.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday.
Yeah, this is like the biggest fucking lie ever told. Bird-looking motherfucker. Looks like a bird. That's okay. I'm a bird person. I don't judge him for it. But, dude, what a liar. What a piece of shit.
That he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one
For the information that we have
in the files.
in the case file.
Okay.
That's right. As you're seeing right there, Kash Patel, the damn stooge himself, is still sitting there saying that Epstein never trafficked anyone, saying there's no credible evidence, which is just, it's just mind-blowing. There is actually so much evidence, whether it's paper trails and financial documents and associations and flight logs and victim testimonies and corroborating evidence and things found in Epstein's homes, and the goddamn fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of trafficking. He's just ignoring that little factoid. It's just like, it's such a bold-faced lie that everybody knows is a lie. We all know that that's a lie, Kash. Everybody knows it's a lie. And yet he says it with that shit-eating expression on his face and just forces it down your throat as if just saying it a bunch of times is going to make it true. But that to you should show you straight off the bat the kind of FBI that we're dealing with. Now, I know a lot of people.
Yeah, they have this thing that they're doing. It's a psychological operation that they play out. It worked on me during COVID. And then I realized about a year into COVID, like, wait, this is a psychological operation. And I got played. They have bots and stuff, and actual people repeat the same points over and over again to make it look like that is what is the publicly accepted narrative. And to go against that, you're an asshole. And that's kind of what happened to me during COVID, is like I went with the narrative because I was so afraid of of not being the chatter of the audience and being left out by the group. And it's a psychological thing. Well, they think they can just use it over and over again and keep using it. But it didn't even work during COVID. It didn't even work during COVID, and it's just becoming flimsier and flimsier because the pattern of trying to use this like fake portrayal of approval of public discourse, like with like bots on Reddit, like they've proved that like 80% of the people on Reddit, there was a leak that showed that it's an Air Force base in Florida. So they're literally trying to control the public discourse, and they're attempting very haphazardly, it's not going to work, to make the public discourse, oh yeah, this is all BS. This is a Democrat conspiracy. But Epstein didn't kill himself is so ingrained in the public psyche that it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen.
I never thought that there was going to be really transparency with this administration, obviously, but I know a lot of people out there thought Kash Patel seems like a guy who's not been involved in whatever you want to call it, the swamp, and he's going to come in and be honest and transparent, and Dan Bongino too, and Pam Bondi, all these guys they're like the dream team of heroes that are going to bring light to the Epstein situation and do this and that. All of them have been corrupted. And you could tell. I mean, once they got in there, they probably got threatened. They were told, you're going to lose everything. We're going to blackmail you. We're going to plant evidence on your devices. We're going to kill you. I don't know what they would have said. But you see from all of them now that they for years were saying the government is lying. And then the moment they joined the government, they're like, yeah, the lie is the truth. And they just started lying. So once a lie is told, a person's credibility begins to crumble. The legitimacy and the integrity of the institution itself also begins to crumble with that of its leader. So if Kash Patel's lying to you about Epstein, and I don't know how you could believe what he said there, what else is he lying about? If Kash and his crew can lie about Epstein trafficking kids, why couldn't they lie about Tyler Robinson and a event that has completely fundamentally rearranged and reshaped the American political landscape in so many ways? Why couldn't they lie about that, and why wouldn't they? Well, before we get any further, let's take a look at the absolute mountain of evidence found within the Kirk assassination story that makes no sense. So, the origins of the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, form the bedrock upon which the FBI's timeline and sequence of events teeters. And yet even this foundation cracks under just a small amount of scrutiny. So right after the shooting occurred, media reports and initial leaks from law enforcement painted Tyler Robinson, known back then just as the suspect, out to have been a local student at Utah Valley University. Everyone was saying in the news, this guy had to be a student here. He was so familiar with the campus. It was stated repeatedly that he had to have been a student because he seemingly had an incredibly intimate familiarity with the campus layout. He knew the campus, the ins and outs of the campus, like the back of his hand. News anchors and federal law enforcement agents publicly emphasized that this could really be the only way to plausibly explain how the shooter had ascended completely undetected through off-limits areas in school buildings, through restricted corridors, and through seemingly hidden hallways up to that rooftop vantage point. I mean, to get up to that area, I've read and heard from individuals that have reported on this story, it's really hard. Like, normal students, if you're just a student at UVU, you can't just walk up to that rooftop. You can't just access that rooftop if you want to go up there. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe key cards that you have to scan to open up doors. There's no way that you can just walk up there. I mean, I went to school at UT in Austin, and it's like, I can't just get up to the rooftop of a building if I want to. Like, it's a college campus. They are very secure places, and they think of these things. So when it comes to Tyler Robinson, a lot of people have said that the shooter wouldn't really have known how to get up there unless they had really studied the area for themselves, step by step, walking through the process. But according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson only used online resources to construct his assassination plan. He, according to the FBI, never physically visited the university to scope out this area prior to the shooting. Now, that may change. They may find a video that they purport shows Tyler Robinson 4 months ago looking at the area or something like that. I don't know what they will say in the future, but as of right now, they're saying he figured out how to get to the rooftop going through these restricted areas simply by looking online. So that initial version of the story that was being told throughout the news implied that the shooting itself was simply a spontaneous act of violence born out of proximity and opportunity, suggesting that the shooter that day was perhaps a disgruntled attendee that had been at Charlie Kirk's rally that had been radicalized by hearing Charlie Kirk's fiery rhetoric and decided to kill him. Basically, the initial theory was that this was somebody who went to the school, who knew how to get up there, who had been to the building hundreds of times, who knew it inside and out, who had just snapped that day and decided, you know what, I'm just going to go kill him. However, as the investigation unfolded, this detail was abruptly revised, and the official story began to change. You see, Tyler Robinson himself had attended a different school, approximately 3 hours away from UVU, in the middle of very rural Utah, nowhere near UVU. To carry out the attack, for example, he would have had to have planned an extremely deliberate, meticulously planned out road trip. A journey like this, from where Tyler Robinson lived to the UVU campus, would require not just a intense logistical planning, like planning for fuel stops, aiding security checkpoints, etc., but also an almost prescient reconnaissance of the venue. How? Ask yourself this question. How did a 22-year-old who was ostensibly operating completely alone by himself map out parking spots that were obscured from the main entrances, identify a low-slung building that he would be able to climb, and pinpoint the exact spot on the rooftop and necessary angle for him to take a clean 150 to 200 yard shot? Online forums, particularly a viral Reddit thread in r/conspiracy, have been buzzing with user-submitted maps showing the campus's high traffic zones and have argued that any outsider who crossed through some of these restricted areas required to cross through to get to that rooftop would have triggered some sort of alert or notification from the event's security detail. A security detail that day which included off-duty officers and private contractors. The FBI's pivot on Robinson's school affiliation, which was reported by Al Jazeera in a September 12th fact check, underscores a pattern of fluidity when dealing with the facts of this case that seem to erode trust straight from the jump. The facts are changing back and forth and going forward and backwards, and he was here, now he wasn't here, and he was a student, now he wasn't a student. And I get it, it's confusing at first when it comes to a case like this, and reporters want to report anything and everything, any lead that pops up. But this doesn't, to me, seem like a mere investigational oversight. This seems to be a narrative sleight of hand that requires us, the viewer or the reader or whatever, to assume that Tyler Robinson's virtual scouting of his sniper hideout was 100% absolutely flawless without any mistakes. His drive to the location was unremarkable and on time, and his execution of every event that day was seamless. Assumptions that multiply like unchecked variables in a deeply flawed equation. Now, one thing that I find extremely strange about this narrative is Tyler Robinson's alleged clothing odyssey, a series of clothing swaps that, to me, almost seem comedic because they're just so damn hard to even believe in the first place. You see, eyewitness accounts and grainy CCTV stills first captured Tyler Robinson that day arriving to the UVU campus in casual jeans and a shirt emblazoned with an eagle and an American flag, wearing a hat and glasses, easily blending into the student crowd milling about the amphitheater waiting for Charlie Kirk to arrive. Yet, according to the FBI affidavits released in Utah's 4th District Court, after Tyler somehow inexplicably makes his way all the way up to the roof without being seen by anybody, keep in mind making his way up there without raising a single eyebrow or raising any suspicion, while he's on the rooftop, according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson then sheds this outfit and puts on a nondescript gray tracksuit. Now, people have said that he probably put this gray tracksuit on, presumably to hide his silhouette so that when he was on the roof itself, no one would see him. But then, this is where it gets weird. After taking that single, fatal, perfect shot at Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson completely changes his clothing again while he's still on the roof, and then changes back into the clothing that he was wearing when he had first arrived on campus before leaping down from the rooftop. That's a very, very important detail. So he gets on the roof, changes clothes into this gray tracksuit, kills Charlie Kirk, then changes back into his other clothes, all before leaving the roof again. Keep in mind, this change of clothing was stored in a tiny little backpack that Tyler Robinson carried up to the rooftop with him, a backpack that was no larger than a school satchel, a backpack which also, according to the FBI, purportedly housed the disassembled rifle, his tools, and perhaps even more. And this to me is where the timeline makes no sense. And that's because, according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson brought the .30-06 rifle up there with him to the rooftop, stored in that same backpack. The gun was broken down in the backpack when he brought that up to the rooftop with him. So he goes up there with the change of clothes and the fully disassembled rifle. Then on the rooftop, he changes into that other outfit and then fully assembles the rifle while he's up there, takes the shot and kills Charlie Kirk. Then, after killing Charlie Kirk and before hopping off of the rooftop, Tyler Robinson fully disassembles his rifle and changes his clothing and stores the change of clothes and the rifle in that small backpack, all before running across the roof and leaping back down to the ground to escape. So, to put that into perspective, according to the FBI, Tyler Robinson performed an entire full-body clothing change twice and assembled and disassembled a large rifle, then stored everything in that tiny little bag in, how long would that be? Well, at maximum, what I'm finding out here after doing some research, in just 34 seconds. And that's at maximum. So, 34 seconds. That's the amount of time that Tyler Robinson had to change his clothing, put the clothing in the backpack, fully disassemble an entire rifle.
So I think this is where it's important for me to interject with my view of things as somebody who is a time soldier, served at Montauk. I've served under Michael Aquino as a psychological operations officer. And what I can just tell you guys is, I was a part of a psychological operation, which from the best, from what I can discern from my knowledge, was funded with your tax money, funded with American tax dollars, where we basically controlled a serial killer and terrorized New York City. I mean, I was directly a part of that. The son of Sam, done a whole video on it here on this channel. And yeah, I just don't think that there's any reason to believe that they wouldn't go through these lengths to control the public narrative, to control the American perspective, and to make Donald Trump's enemies, the left, appear crazy, appear unhinged, appear like dangerous. That would be the end goal, I would think, and also just to cause division. And yeah, like I said, so many people hated this guy. I didn't like him, and when he died, so many people were just like, "Hell yeah!" And then the people on the right just couldn't believe that. They're so offended by that. Meanwhile, there's been similar situations where the right, somebody will die on the left, and they'll be all happy about it. So, where do you draw the line on that one? It's kind of like I said, like when a mass shooting or something happens, and you're sitting there just excited, rubbing your hands together to be able to blame it on somebody's political perspective that differs from yours. I mean, if that isn't the entire point of this shit, then I don't know what is. So I just wanted to offer that as my perspective. Like, we do this stuff. Like, our military goes like way out of the way to control the public's minds, to mind control them. Psychological operations. You've just been fucked by psyops. There's a patch that depicts a gun shooting at a skull and their brains being blown out. It says you've just been fucked by psyops. It's a real military patch. These are the people that you're giving your tax money. You're giving them your tax money to be mind controlled by them. Good times here.
huge rifle and store that rifle in that small backpack and zip the backpack up in just 34 seconds. You see, news sources report that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at 12:23 p.m. that day. That's the time given for the moment that the shot rang out, and I couldn't track down an exact second for when that happened or anything like that, but it's 12:23 p.m. However, according to the video footage that was released by the FBI, you can see at 12:23 and 34 seconds, you can see Tyler Robinson running across the rooftop to make his escape, with the rifle already fully disassembled and his clothing already fully changed, and everything stored in the backpack. So, bear with me for a second. Let's just assume right here that Charlie Kirk that day was shot immediately at 12:23 p.m. right on the dot. 12:23 and 0 seconds. That would give, according to the FBI and the released footage, that would give Tyler Robinson only 34 seconds to fully change his clothing, like full body clothing, fully disassemble his rifle, stuff all of that into a tiny backpack, and then take off running. I just personally don't see how that could physically be possible. But also, there's something else curious that I noticed. So there's also a video that was released taken by somebody that was present that day when the shooting erupted, a bystander that was filming the crowd, that shows the suspect just moments, seconds after shooting Charlie Kirk, running across the rooftop. But that doesn't make much sense to me. If the suspect was already running, that further shaves down the time that he would have needed to change the clothing and disassemble the rifle. Now he probably had maybe 20 to 25 seconds to change clothes and break down the gun. But also, he was already running immediately after the shooting. When did he stop to do all of this? Where did he stop to change clothes and break down the gun? None of this really adds up to me. But I wanted to go even further. So I asked an AI program, Grok to be specific, to help me figure out the exact approximate length between where Tyler Robinson would have taken that fatal shot and the location on the rooftop where he seems to jump off of the roof in the footage released by the FBI. There are a bunch of maps online that people have posted and news outlets have posted showing, an aerial view of where he took the shot, where he left the roof, all of that. And Grok, my AI program, used resources to figure all this out. It analyzed maps, and at the end, it gave me an approximate distance of 246 feet. 246 feet from where the shot was taken at Charlie Kirk and from where the shooter eventually jumped from the roof to the ground. I then asked Grok how long it would take an adult male to run that full distance, 246 feet, and the results were interesting. For an average adult male, Grok theorized that it would take them 24 or so seconds. But for a trained sprinter, Grok theorized it would have taken them about 12.15 seconds. Now, I haven't seen any information stating that Tyler Robinson was a trained sprinter or that he physically trained for this shooting, but I do also think that he was running faster than just an average jogging pace. He was in a bit of a rush. So let's just, for this kind of equation, figure out a number in the middle there. So going off of this data, the run, Tyler's run, from the shooting location to the location on the roof where the shooter jumped down would have taken Tyler approximately, and this is just according to my calculations, about 18.5 seconds. So in the footage that's released, Tyler, or the shooter, arrives to that corner on the rooftop where he eventually jumps down at about 12:23 and 50 seconds. So if you subtract 18.5 seconds from 50, you get about 31.5 seconds. So that is 31.5 seconds past 12:23 p.m. So 31.5 seconds after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. If you're going with the theory that Charlie Kirk was shot right at 12:23 in the afternoon and 0 seconds, I think that it was probably more like 12:23 and 5 seconds or something like that. Now, interestingly, in the footage released by the FBI, we first see Tyler Robinson, or the shooter on the rooftop, at 12:23 and 34 seconds. So if we go back about 3 seconds from then, that's when he would have had to start running from the location to get to the rooftop to make the timeline of the video make sense. So when you subtract all these numbers and make sense of all of this, That leaves you with about 30 seconds. In order to make this timeline work, that means that Tyler Robinson, after taking the shot at Charlie Kirk, would have had to have fully changed his clothing, fully disassembled his rifle, and fully stored all of those components in his backpack before zipping it up in just under 30 seconds. We know that he wasn't doing this as he ran because we can clearly see that when he enters the frame at 12:23:34 in that footage released by the authorities, Tyler, or the shooter, isn't fiddling with anything. He isn't changing clothing, he isn't storing anything in his bag, so all of this would have had to have happened before that. In addition, I don't know.
It's like he said, they just think you're stupid. He real good intro. They just think you're dumb.
Like I just said, exactly when Charlie Kirk was shot, down to the second. He could have been shot at 12:23 and 0 seconds, 12:23 and 5 seconds, 12:23 and 10 seconds. I just don't know. But it is important when you consider the timeline. Every second counts here. But I don't believe that he was shot exactly at 12:23 on the dot. And so if that's true and he was shot a little after 12:23, that would give Tyler Robinson even less time to be able to pull off this magic trick. You're going to go down from 30 seconds to probably 20 seconds. 20 seconds to change his clothing, store that gun, zip it up, and then take off running to make it on camera at 12:23 and 34 seconds. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Well, it gets even crazier. Once again, I asked my AI program, Grok, a different question. This time I asked Grok, how long would it take for someone to fully disassemble a Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle, the gun that Tyler Robinson allegedly used to kill Charlie Kirk? And Grok's answer was shocking to me. Initially, the AI program told me that it would most likely, for someone with familiarity with the weapon itself, take someone somewhere between 6 to 11 minutes to fully disassemble the gun and store it in a small backpack. But, I thought, maybe I should ask Grok again, what if the person disassembling the rifle is in an extreme hurry, like they're in a really big rush? And the answer to me was still shocking. After regenerating an answer, Grok stated that it would have taken at minimum somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes to fully break down the gun and store it in a backpack. 3 to 5 minutes. And that's going extremely fast, like you know exactly what you're doing, exactly what screw to unscrew, exactly what to put where. We're talking about a large rifle here that just fired a fatal shot at someone. And according to the official timeline of events, that weapon was fully broken down, fully stored, and Tyler Robinson completely head to toe had changed his outfit in just under 30 seconds, probably more like 15 to 20 seconds if you account for the fact that Charlie Kirk was probably shot a little after 12:23. Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable, right? By the way, if you want to read through the detailed breakdowns of this information that I received from Grok, I'm going to include the full text of this analysis and these breakdowns in the resources document that can be found in the show description. And just keep that in mind. You just killed somebody, and you have somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds to fully deconstruct a weapon that you just used to kill somebody, to fully change your clothing head to toe, and to stuff all of that, store it in a backpack that you zip up in about 15 to 30 seconds, somewhere in there, before you're seen on camera running across a rooftop to make an escape. It's just so highly improbable to me. It's weird. It's really weird, man. After learning this information about those clothing changes and the rifle deconstruction, the news station Newsmax ran a segment on September 15th, where they interviewed a former FBI profiler who likened the FBI's timeline of events to a, quote, spy novel plot, end quote, and questioned the physical feasibility of this explanation amidst the sweat-inducing September heat. You see, according to AccuWeather.com, on that day in St. George, Utah, when the shooting happened, the high was 95 degrees, and as we can see in that footage, the sun was shining bright that day. It was also almost exactly midday when the shooting happened, meaning that it would have been incredibly hot outside. And in my opinion, sweat would have definitely served to further complicate Tyler Robinson's plan of changing clothing and disassembling the rifle. I'm assuming that he was already sweaty from just being nervous about killing someone and stuff like that. Sweaty clothes or just having slippery hands, all of that could lead to losing 1 or 2 seconds in the timeline. But every second here is so important because it just gets more and more unbelievable. X users under the hashtag KirkClothesWap have memed this piece of information relentlessly. It should also be stated here that the FBI claims that they found no pieces of fabric, no clothing left behind, no broken zipper, no sock, nothing left over from Tyler Robinson's clothing changes. Meaning, if you really think about it, that he pulled off these stunning clothing swapping feats with zero error. He didn't break a button, he didn't snap a zipper, he didn't rip a piece of clothing, he left not even a single shred of fabric behind. He was immaculately clean and immaculately precise. Such details, when fully fleshed out, transform, in my opinion, the FBI's lone gunman narrative to some into a logistical comedy of errors, which begs the question, was this shooting really the result of a premeditated precision, or were all of these details added in after the fact, after the shooting had happened, quickly, without any afterthought, in order to cover somebody else's tracks? But now we have to get into one of the angles that I find to be the most damning, and that's the discussion surrounding the
More people want to interact in the chat. You know, we're kind of here to hang out. That's a big part of this. So feel free to comment your thoughts and things like that. I had to bump somebody out of the chat because every time they commented, it had nothing to do with the video and they were being annoying. But if you got commentary or just want to ask my opinion on something or offer yours or whatever, that's what the chat's for. And I appreciate you, Urso, for being so active in here. But yeah, it'd be nice if there were more people active in the chat. That is a big reason why I'm doing this, is because I want to see people's opinions and learn more about this and maybe get more information, deeper perspective. That's why I think it's cool that we have the ability to watch this kind of stuff together.
rifle itself. The murder weapon, a Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle, a weapon typically used by big game hunters, or even back in the day, used by soldiers in war, is the real anchor of the FBI's physical evidence. It's the literal smoking gun. Yet, its handling in the narrative seems to defy reality. So, according to the official story, as you probably know by now, after shooting Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson fled the scene, and according to the FBI, almost immediately ended up in a nearby wooded area very close to where the shooting happened, where he, for some reason, fully reassembled the rifle and then just left it there. He left the fully reassembled rifle in the woods along with those engraved bullet casings, and it just so happened that he left a towel with his DNA on it. The official story states that Tyler Robinson assembled the rifle on the roof, then disassembled it and stuffed the pieces of the rifle into his backpack. The barrel detached, stock separated, all nestled in that small backpack alongside his change of clothing, before hopping off the roof for transport. But the reasoning isn't clear at all as to why Tyler Robinson, when attempting to flee the scene of the world's most high-profile crime that day, would then take the time to reassemble the rifle fully when he was out in the woods, and then leave it somewhere where it could be easily found and seen and photographed by FBI agents who just so happen to be looking for it. This to me seems to be a fabrication of some sort by the FBI or someone else. I mean, think about it. If the rifle was still disassembled, it would have been nearly impossible for agents to find it in the middle of a dense wooded area. However, I mean, just imagine, they're looking, how would they find a disassembled little chunk of metal in the middle of a wooded area? There's no way, even if you're walking, doing a ground search, it would be much harder to find pieces and parts of a broken down gun that Tyler could have easily hid anywhere in the wooded area. However, the fact that the large gun, big gun, was fully assembled, in my opinion, made it much easier for the FBI to find, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying that, in my opinion, they actually found it, like, oh, we're searching, look, here's a gun. I think it was more like, in my opinion, let's put this here and act like we found it, if that makes sense. And it's made me question, and I want you to ask yourself this question: would a guy like Tyler Robinson, think about it, would a guy like Tyler Robinson, who up until this point had perfectly executed the assassination?
Yeah, I've heard about how there's text between him and his roommate, and that's not how they talk. I actually saw a comedian do a bit about this. So that's pretty crazy.
Perfectly obscured his identity and had pulled off a near perfect...
Maybe if I can pull up those texts. Sorry I'm going to try to stop just pausing it over again, but maybe I can find that. I'm going to wait for him to mention it, though, because he's probably going to mention it, and I don't want to cover it twice.
Escape from the crime scene undetected and had pre-planned all of this for a long period of time, would he really take the extra time to stop?
This is an amazing comment, and this is what I've been saying. If you follow this channel and you've been paying attention, I've been saying that the immigration crisis is being used as a pretext in order to be able to take people, in order to surveil people, this, that, and the other thing. And this person who, forgive me your name, is very not American, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I'll just slaughter my pronunciation, probably. My bad. I'll just call you PE. So PE says here, my best guess as a non-American is that if the Charlie K event was a psyop, then the purpose was mainly for slowly building the premise that we need more security is needed. Eugene, okay. Eugene is fine. I'll call it Eugene then. The premise is that we need more security and we already have Palantir for you. That's what I think it is too. But what is interesting about that is historically, or at least from what I've seen, I shouldn't say historically, it's because this is all new, but what I've seen in my life is conservatives are more concerned about surveillance culture than liberals, which I've always vibed with that more so, the conservative perspective of, even if I don't have anything to hide, so what? I don't want to be surveilled. So them using a conservative figure to try to push something that is wholly like just conservatives, like right-wing Republican kind of people, have always been pretty anti-security culture, leave me alone, anti-surveillance culture. They're going to have a real good time trying to push that on them, even if they did kill this guy that they all really liked and stuff. Like, I don't think that's something that they're going to subscribe to. So this very well so could just be a huge waste of time. Because the people that they really, the people that they need to be convincing that surveillance culture is okay, a very large portion of them are right-wing people that are against that. And the fact that Trump is working with Palantir, this, that, and the other thing, which is stuff they would definitely not like, it's flying over their heads. But as soon as they actually see that stuff in their face, these conservatives that live in the United States, they don't want that. Cameras everywhere, being tracked where they go. This Orwellian world. Most of the people who voted for Trump live in rural areas, and so it might be like the frog on the boiling water, where they might not see it because it's happening in cities. So the people who are voting for this might still cheer it on until it's too late. That's what's scary, because it's going to come to the rural areas last, right? And these are the people who voted for Trump. So we're just in an interesting situation here in the United States. And yeah, that's why they're trying to usher in the digital ID, which is getting crazy. We're going to do a whole show on the digital ID soon and what's going on in the UK and stuff. I'm doing a show almost every day now. I'm not, no promises, but my goal that I'm setting is to do a show almost every day, because I have this here. I'll show you guys. I put this up because I know this is what I was doing. It says stop hiding. I've been hiding. I haven't been sharing my music. I haven't been posting videos. I haven't been interviewing people, and I was giving myself this excuse that, like, well, I'm healing, I'm dealing with things. And yes, especially like a week, last week was crazy. I went through so much stuff last week, and I'm talking in the programs, other lives, and in the here and now, because it bleeds through. But yeah, I am tired of slowing down. And this was I think a good place to start, because I'm late on this. This video came out like a week ago. But yeah, I'm just gonna start putting out more content, music, interviews. I'm interviewing finally Riley Nusk, or Ashton, as people call him. I'm not sure what he wants to go by. You know, we all have alters, so we have multiple names. But we're gonna be talking about Kruger for the first time on this channel, and just Kruger. which is a mercenary corporation from an alternate reality that I've worked for and he's worked for. So that'll be fun to talk about. So Sunday at 7 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to be talking with, Kruger Super Soldier.
Up in the woods, in the midst of his escape, fully reassemble the rifle, and then leave it practically gift wrapped with a DNA stained.
What if they're playing a double bluff where the so-called conservative politicians, the one you trust most, screw you the hardest? In the UK, Boris Johnson is opposing the digital ID. Huh. That's really interesting. Yeah, can you elaborate on what you think they might be trying to get out of this? I kind of get where you're going with this. I do think it's wild. I did not know that Boris Johnson opposes the digital ID. I almost think I should get an English bloke on here when I do the show about the digital ID because it's already in England, right? So that'd be a good way to start. I have so many cool interviews that are coming up, lined up. Oh, I'm gonna have Audrey on the show again soon. I'm gonna be talking to Taj, the guy who was formerly. I've got his information now. I just need to talk to him. But I'm gonna be talking to Taj, the guy who was talking about Sarah Ions and Brian Singh. He's got a lot of information about a lot of stuff that'll be really interesting. Yeah, we'll keep watching this video, but yeah, Eugene, if you got any more perspective to offer us from your English perspective, because you're seeing a lot of these events play out kind of like ahead of time because it hasn't reached us yet. Yeah, I'm interested in learning more about it. Heck, maybe you could even be the English person to come on my show and talk about this stuff. The logic is very simple. They switch sides all the time. Fair enough. Yeah. People clearly oppose the digital ID, and it's a way to make people who don't favor you be like, oh, maybe this guy's not so bad. So, yeah, politicians are pretty slimy that way. But if you can get what you want out of them, just get it. It doesn't matter. They're a tool to be used. That's the way I've always looked at politicians, is they're supposed to be a tool to be used. They're supposed to be public servants. And the problem in this world, this society, America and otherwise, is that we celebritize politicians. We make them like celebrities, and they're not. They're servants. It should be kind of considered sort of a lowly job. Like, there should be dignity and honor to it, but it shouldn't be like a sought after, like, oh, this is a great, yeah, I'm going to make all this money and stuff. It shouldn't be like that. They're supposed to be public servants. But, in a world without any honor, you kind of need honor. Because here's the thing is, in this society, money is the only motivation for things. Whereas in other societies that I've been a part of in the breakaways and otherwise, honor is a huge motivation for a lot of things, and money doesn't really matter as much. Money's secondary. And if honor was important, which it's not. But if it was, there'd be more honest politicians because they'd be stoking their honor, which is actually an important currency in some societies. But in this society, it's not a currency whatsoever. Anyway, they are starting to lose grip. I was talking to my psychiatrist, and she had to be really careful about how she said it because she can't share the information to clients, but she just basically said, it seems like people are really waking up. Like there's all sorts of people at the same time waking up and realizing deeply spiritual things and stuff. And I was like, well, I get that's really interesting. I know you can't go into details, but it's really interesting. That's all she could say. She couldn't be like, this client said this client, even if she doesn't use her name, it doesn't matter. But yeah, she just said that there seems to be this huge awakening thing happening. So that's really interesting and kind of promising. But anyway, let's get back to the video. We're not even halfway through yet.
Towel in a nearby wooded area for federal agents to just so happen to find. It makes truly no sense. And then there's the screwdriver. Now, according to the FBI and official reporting, While he was on the roof, Tyler Robinson used a screwdriver that he brought with him to meticulously reassemble the rifle, threading pins and torquing screws under the scorching midday sun. Remember, when he went up to the roof, according to the FBI, Robinson carried with him that backpack full of gun parts, then put it together while he was up there. Then he took the shot and somehow took the rifle apart, changed the clothes, and stored all of that in his backpack in somewhere from 15 to 30 seconds. The screwdriver, though, that Tyler used to assemble and disassemble the rifle, according to FBI Director Kash Patel in a statement on September 11th, that screwdriver was later recovered from the rooftop itself. And serendipitously for the FBI, the screwdriver was found with Tyler Robinson's DNA on it. But this makes no sense. Remember, after fleeing the scene, and according to the FBI, immediately after carrying out the shooting, Tyler Robinson then heads to a wooded area and fully reassembles the rifle in the woods. But how would he do this without a screwdriver? If he left the screwdriver that he used to put the gun together and break it down up on the roof, if he left it there and made the escape without the screwdriver, well, what happened? Did a screwdriver magically appear in his backpack? Could he have possibly brought a second screwdriver with him? Did he really plan that far ahead? I mean, it's known that he left his trusty screwdriver, which once again conveniently had his DNA on it, on the rooftop. But there was no screwdriver left on scene when they found his rifle. This also begs the question, if Tyler really did take the time to assemble this rifle in the woods, to throw some ammunition, some carved ammunition on the ground, and even conveniently took the time to leave a DNA-covered towel near all of this, why would Tyler Robinson not just leave the screwdriver that he used to assemble the gun in the woods there with all that stuff too? I mean, think about it. He had already taken everything out of his backpack, like the carved casings and whatever this towel is, wherever this towel came from, and the gun, and he already left his other screwdriver, if we're going with the two screwdrivers theory, on the rooftop. And like I said, since he was using it to reassemble the gun in the woods, we can assume that he would have grabbed that second screwdriver from his backpack in order to use it to build the gun again. But why wouldn't he just leave it there? Why not just throw it on the ground with his other extremely and conveniently incriminating items? I mean, it just makes no sense. If he actually had a screwdriver in his hand and he's just throwing all of this stuff down, why wouldn't he just throw the screwdriver down too? Why wouldn't he pack up the bullets? Why wouldn't he pack up the towel if he's going to take the time to pack up the screwdriver? And why would he not just throw the screwdriver on the ground? I mean, it just makes no sense. And it is important to note that to date, the FBI has not claimed that they have located another screwdriver. They haven't even explained this inconsistency in the official story. They've made no comment on it. I think they know that people are...
This is just like Donald Trump and his team's just like, man, this psychological operation stuff, these people aren't even using it to build up their empire. Let's build up our empire with this stuff. Let's build up our MAGA Nazi empire with these psychological operations and stuff and gain control of the government and the world. Look, what are these people even doing? We got all these psyops, all these things we do, all these manipulated events. Well, I'm the president. Do this stuff for me. Make, you know, it just seems like that to me. Like, it seems so obviously manipulated to bolster them and make them look good and make their enemies look bad.
Pointing this out, but they haven't said anything. I think that they just are realizing that they up the story. Now, people online have spent hours analyzing footage of the shooting, the footage of the killing itself, and the footage of the alleged perpetrator on the roof. And many have pointed out that after viewing the footage, when looking at Tyler Robinson's rooftop sprint, they see no telltale bulge of a slung rifle, just a light backpack over his shoulder. He doesn't appear to be holding a rifle on his person, and he doesn't appear to have a rifle in his pants or under his clothing, as it definitely would have been visible in that footage. Meaning, he had to have broken down the rifle, or maybe the rifle was left on the roof and later confiscated and planted by the FBI. I don't know. That's just a theory. One person online even posted a photo for comparison showing what a .30-06 crammed into loose jeans would look like. And it's very noticeable. And this image almost underscores the absurdity of all of these claims. Hiding an entire rifle in skinny jeans or a tiny backpack, it's just unbelievable to me that he would have been able to get the rifle off of the roof without being noticed unless it was either in his backpack or he didn't even have it on his person. Then there's the fact that in all of the announcements that Kash Patel made with the DNA on the towel and the screwdriver, it was not announced that there was any DNA found on the rifle. Yeah, there's no DNA on the rifle. Instead, the DNA was found on that towel, random ass towel in the woods, and the screwdriver, which is again incredibly bizarre. How could Tyler Robinson's DNA have been found on a towel and a screwdriver, but nowhere on the gun itself? Think about that. To build the gun, he would have been sweating all over the gun. He would have screwed it all in. He would have been touching all the parts over and over again. He would have carried it with him, been touching it at his home, probably been shooting it before the shooting, training if he did that. His DNA would have been all over that thing. But apparently they didn't find any DNA on the gun itself. Recently, Newsweek reported on September 21st that Kash Patel is currently questioning potential accomplices of Tyler Robinson's, hinting at some sort of weapon handover scenario where an accomplice of Tyler's may have taken it from him, reassembled it, which makes no sense still, and dumped it in the woods, or something like that. Once again though, absolutely none of this makes sense when you actually look at it beyond the surface level. It's great to have a little easy explanation that says, yeah, this is what happened and I'm just gonna believe it. But when you poke and prod at these things, they just fall apart. Kash Patel's broader conduct during this investigation has also invited scorn from both parties, Republicans and Democrats, as NBC News detailed in an article posted on September 15th. For example, Kash Patel, the leader of the FBI, was posting in real time on X throughout the rapidly unfolding investigation, speculating and taking guesses about the shooter's motives before a single piece of evidence materialized. Critics, including former DOJ officials, have publicly argued that these actions performed by Kash Patel only served to prejudice the case, echoing whispers of the Epstein cover-up. Forums like r/True Crime Discussion have overflowed with timelines charting these missteps. Now, fully fleshed out, the rifle saga reveals not only what seem to be mechanical impossibilities, but also a deep institutional hubris, where evidence is forced and bent to fit an inventive narrative or story that was dreamt up before a shooter was even in custody. But things get even weirder and weirder as we go down the rabbit hole. Now, initially, I was like, yeah, there's some weird things about this, but one of the things that kind of incentivized me to make this video was a rabbit hole I fell down on TikTok a few nights ago, and on YouTube, where I've been watching these people, these guys who run like gun weapon YouTube channels, hunting YouTube channels, hunting TikToks, these guys that have channels where they use guns frequently and they have a lot of knowledge about weaponry. And they've all been saying the 30-06, that if that was really fired at Charlie Kirk from that distance, it would have absolutely blown him away. And the damage would have been much greater than what we saw with the footage. If you've seen that clip of the actual wound appearing on Charlie Kirk's neck, every
Which was
person that I've
brought up early in the video by somebody,
these guns, whether through hunting or just recreational shooting, has said, yeah, he should have been way more f***ed up by that shot. And you see, to me, the ballistic enigma of the wound on Charlie Kirk's neck constitutes the cover story's most egregious affront to science. A miracle that physicists and surgeons alike have stated is complete and utter, to be frank, bullshit. This, essentially, is the FBI's core claim. A 30-06 slug screaming through the air at 2,700 to 3,000 feet per second, fired from a distance of approximately 150 to 200 yards, strikes Charlie Kirk's neck's soft tissue, proximate to the carotid artery, piercing his skin with a modest entry wound, but no visible exit wound, the round lodging harmlessly within Kirk's neck where it came to a halt. Still frames from the viral footage, Charlie Kirk mid-gesture after being shot with his head snapping backwards, according to some eagle-eyed firearms experts, appears to show a bullet wound similar to a wound that most likely would have come from a .22 caliber rifle, not the cavernous, extremely gruesome trauma that would be expected from a weapon and round designed for shooting and killing elk at twice the distance. To put this in layman's terms, the shot itself, if this round was really fired from that exact spot by Tyler Robinson and really fired from that exact rifle, should have, according to many experts, done a lot more damage. I mean, I've seen a video where a guy describes how they use this gun and rounds like this specifically to hunt larger game like elk. And he explained it on his video, but let me explain it to you here. Let's think about this for a second. Elk have extremely thick and heavy bones. Their bones, in fact, are 1.5 to 2 times thicker than human bones. After all, their frames typically have to support anywhere from 600 to 1,200 pounds of weight.
There's some intel from Blessington, Heather Blessington. She has a Telegram. I don't use Telegram. I avoid downloading new apps. Maybe one of these days I'll finally break down and get a Telegram. But she has a lot of intel, and she talks about how apparently Cash Patel said to Charlie Kirk, see you in Valhalla, and there's like the space station Valhalla, and basically like when Charlie Kirk got shot, it was in a capacity where he knew he wasn't actually going to die. And it was all set up. It's basically, from what I can understand, her intel. So take that with a grain of salt, but that does make sense to me from as somebody who's in these programs. And John Whitberg talks about seeing Charlie Kirk in space. So yeah, to me this seems like an artificially set up event. I wouldn't want to live on this planet if I were him anyway. If they're like, hey, we're gonna shoot you, and then you can go somewhere else, be like, oh, that whole getting shot part is gonna suck, but all right, I get to leave the planet and live on a nice planet. Leave the Earth and live on a nice planet that's full of white people like me, probably, I can only imagine, because he was a fucking Nazi. Yeah, he probably would have taken them up on their offer. But anyway, let's keep watching this.
But if a Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle is fired at an elk from around the same distance that Charlie Kirk was shot at, according to what I've seen people say online, the elk's bones will completely shatter. I'm talking the bones practically disintegrate, not like a little crack. The bones are evaporated inside of the elk's body. The Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle is in fact a rifle designed for power and for deadliness. All you have to do is look at some of the videos that people have posted online after the shooting, replicating the exact shot taken at Charlie Kirk, taken from approximately the same distance using the same rifle, and you can see almost immediately that if he really was shot with that weapon, the damage should have been so much greater. Just take a look at these clips.
So today on Dual Liberty Firearms, we're going to be showing you what a 30-06 does to a ballistics gel skull. So we have a realistic human head here made with ballistics gelatin and a resin skull, and it's got a filling in there, so hopefully you'll be able to see what happens. Alright, so now we're going to throw it in about a 10% slow-mo for you. This is going to look super cool. Now, what happened was, when the 30-06 projectile hit the head, I had predicted it would go through the front side and just blow a big hole in the back side. But what actually happened was the large projectile of the 30-06 went through the skull and impacted all the liquid blood that I had on the inside.
This is a little off topic, but since it's actually a good question, I'll answer it. Human souls were artificially created by ET, so like they're new. And that's why starseeds and humans are different. That's like not every human is a starseed. A lot of their souls were manufactured here by groups that made humans for certain purposes. So their souls are new. And that would be a pure human soul. And there's actually quite a lot of pure human souls here. Quite a lot. It's part of the reason there's so many new people incarnated here right now. There's 8 or 9 billion people on the planet or whatever. There's so many people incarnated that are newer, pure souls, that's why you're seeing a lot of this naivety and people getting taken advantage of. It's because they're not as used to, they're not as learned. They haven't experienced it before. So they're learning a lot of these lessons for the first time. And then you got people like me and many others. There's plenty of us out there who have seen these things before. We've lived lots of lives and we're like, hey, this is all really familiar. And we're sounding the alarm on it. If that makes any sense to you. So yeah, there's pure human souls, which are fine. Humans are great. I think humans are really powerful. They're actually really powerful and are brainwashed into thinking they're not powerful. Humans are fine. But yeah, that would be pure human souls in my opinion. And the rest are starseeds or walk-ins. All right.
All right, Will's gonna try some 30-06 in a rifle to see what it does. This full metal jacket, 30-06. Yeah, wow. What happened there? Did I come in backwards? It tumbled, yeah, it did.
This is a Winchester Model 70 chambered in 30-06.
Ready?
Right out the back. Yep. Completely unstopped, straight through.
Filled the whole frame.
You can see the bullet go straight through.
I didn't care.
The watermelon didn't know it was shot until there was already an exit wound.
Dude, that blew the 2x4 in half. That was the coolest part. That 2x4 is cool. Crazy.
That's almost the entire bullet there. Oh wait, is that
The steel core?
steel core and that's copper?
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, good eye. That is wild. It's still barely slowed down, I feel like. It's crazy how much it diverted that steel core up. Yeah. That
Look at
wound
the
cavity
spine
is
coming out of the
insane.
back.
It demonstrates again just how much bigger exit wounds are than entrance wounds.
Welcome back to Ballistics Nation. Today we're taking the 200-yard shot. But in today's video, we wanted to take a look at just how difficult it is to hit a shot from 200 yards, especially on a roof. Well, so I definitely missed, which is kind of the point I was trying to make. There's so many things that come into factor here. There's just a lot of things that come into play, and you would just have to be a phenomenal marksman to have one shot with a bunch of people around. We're gonna go ahead and shoot a couple more rounds downrange, see if we can get lucky and hit the target. There's a lot of scopes on the market, right? Some are for close range, some are for far range, some are red dots, some are for super long range, what have you. So you're gonna have to plan out in advance what's a good scope for 200 yards at that distance. You have to know how to make certain adjustments with the windage and the elevation changes, how far to be zoomed in and zoomed out on the scope. So someone to make this shot would really have to know what they were doing.
So Nathan says the 30-06 is supersonic, what gives an effect called hydro shot, pushing the water content aside at supersonic speeds, causing the explosive effect on ballistics gel, flesh, and that watermelon. I just thought that was a cool comment, and I wanted to just, yeah, explaining it super well.
Definitely missed again, unfortunately. But honestly, that kind of goes to show you that with the setup that we did, we shot this gun at 50 yards and then 100 yards, and we were right on, a little bit low. So obviously making those adjustments for this distance, and I still can't even hit that. And I bet when we go look down there, I'm gonna be kind of all over the place, right? Because you have to think about this. I had to climb up a ladder to get up here. It's hot, kind of zipping up and down. I'm a little stressed. I've got to film and stuff. So like, all those things you have to think about when you're gonna take a shot. So for somebody to be able to hop on a roof in the hot sun and lower their heart rate down, right? Because every time you go to breathe through this scope, right? Everything's connected. So basically when I breathe, the gun is gonna move slightly, right? Might not make a difference this close, but you know, extend that movement 100, 200 yards down range, and you're gonna be off by, you know, a huge margin. So again, you gotta know how to control your breath, you gotta know what scope to use, you gotta know what bullets to use, what gun is the right power. Yeah. Well, I did a lot better than I thought I was gonna do from that distance away. A couple things to think about. This is a stationary target. Think about trying to hit a target that's moving around unpredictably. Think about that. Also, you got to think about how I missed off to the right. It's because when I'm shooting, I'm pulling my trigger finger and the gun's jerking to the right. I would have to train for years to be able to hit a shot this precise consistently at 200 yards.
All right, for the next part of this theory, or conspiracy theories that are floating about, Charlie stood about 6'5". You take his body mass, if it was proportional, his neck would have been about 5.5, maybe 5'7", in diameter, giving him a circumference of maybe anywhere between 15 to 17 inches of his neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate that with a pork neck. So we have pretty hefty pork neck here, solid bone, a couple inches of meat. We're going to see if we can get a bullet to stop in it at 100, and this time I'm pushing out. I'm going to go to 175 meters, and we're going to see if we can hit this right square in the center and get a 150 grain bullet to stop. Now remember, it's a core lock. It is designed to stop. That's what it's designed to do, but it's not designed to stop. Here, on just ballistics gel alone, the 150 grain core lock from a 30-06 is going to have almost 24 inches of penetration. There we go. That's our close approximation to a deer neck. Well, to Charlie's neck. So, and again, for size reference, let's see what we got.
On the day that he was shot, Charlie Kirk was not wearing body armor, a fact that has been corroborated by timeline reconstructions placing Charlie Kirk in a t-shirt that day without a vest, which implies that the round fired at Charlie that day would have had a direct soft tissue impact. Now, if this impact was applied to Charlie Kirk's slender frame, this round, fired from this rifle, according to the official story, should have absolutely, not to be too graphic, but it should have eviscerated his vertebrae, his spinal cord. It should have severed multiple arteries and caused a hemorrhagic cascade. And it should have painted the tent's canvas rear, the material behind Charlie Kirk, with a large bloody red arterial spray. And it also, at the same time, would have endangered the cluster of aides and guests that sat just a few feet away from Charlie when he was shot. Instead, though, as you can see in the footage, there's no blood. There's zero blood that sprays out behind Charlie. In fact, it's been claimed now that there was never even an exit wound at all. It just gets even more unbelievable by the day. So on September 20th, a close friend of Charlie's and one of the most powerful people at Turning Point USA, Charlie's organization, a man named Andrew Colvett, posted the following on X, saying, quote, "I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter, and I apologize this is somewhat graphic, but in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital. He said the bullet, quote, absolutely should have gone through, which is very, very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc." End quote. But it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent, and he replied, quote, "It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too." End quote. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Remarkable, miraculous. End quote. And this is, I know I keep saying it, but this is incredibly bizarre. I mean, you're actually claiming now, think of those videos that I just showed you. Think about all the experienced hunters that I've showed you in this video and weapons experts talking about how damn powerful a 30-06 bolt action rifle is. Think of how in relativity, how close the shooter was to Charlie Kirk. This wasn't like an extremely far shot. He was pretty close to him. And just think of what it actually looks like when you fire rounds from this gun at targets. You've seen those videos. Now you have a guy from Turning Point claiming that it was literally some sort of heaven-sent miracle that the bullet stopped in his neck. Which, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just physically impossible. A bullet fired from a gun of that caliber, of that size, would have destroyed his neck. It would have blown a hole through him. It would have shattered and destroyed vertebrae and other parts of Charlie's neck and body. And come on, guys. Clearly, with a weapon that powerful, we would have seen an exit wound. If that really, I believe, was the actual weapon. I could be wrong about all this. I'm just reporting on what all these other people are saying and you know, questioning the narrative with. It makes no sense whatsoever that the bullet would just stop on his neck and it wouldn't even exit his neck. If it's going 2,700 to 3,000 yards, feet per second, I don't think you really can grasp how powerful and really fast that is. But I mean, the inconsistency and the thing that just makes no sense about the shooting whatsoever, that all these people are saying this seems like bullshit and this official story makes no sense. Now that all these people started questioning all this stuff and making videos about it online and talking about it, Turning Point USA, one of the main guys, comes out and says, you know, it seems like bullshit, it seems incredibly fake, and it seems like it's a totally different weapon, but don't worry, it was a miracle. This was a divine miracle. And I'm not making fun of religious people. I believe in miracles. I've been to places where miracles have happened. I was just in Italy at multiple places where miracles have happened. I was filming for an upcoming video that's going to be going on my other channel. I walked through the Virgin Mary's water at a spring that she, in a miracle, created. I gathered holy water from a miracle well that flows with water in the center of Rome. I've read so much about miracles and I understand and I do believe in them. But this, to me, seems like a very, very easy way to try to explain a very core fact of the FBI's official story that makes no sense. It's like an easy get out of jail free card. I mean, what is it? Is it more likely that Charlie Kirk experienced a miracle when he was shot in the neck, or that an entirely different weapon was used? Also, no autopsy report or anything like that has been released so far, and reportedly the coroner seems to be stonewalling efforts to get that report released, which has left a void where science and evidence should illuminate. Now, I also saw another YouTuber when I was watching a video about Charlie Kirk's assassination and the theories behind it. I saw him talk about Occam's razor, and I think that concept is really prescient and relevant here. Essentially, Occam's razor is a simple idea used to figure out the best explanation for something. It says that when you have a few possible explanations for a situation, the simplest one, the one that makes the fewest assumptions or adds the least complexity, is usually the right one. Now, imagine you're trying to solve a puzzle and you have two solutions. One solution that needs just a few pieces to fit perfectly, and another solution that requires a bunch of extra pieces and complicated steps. Occam's razor suggests picking the simpler solution because it's more likely to be correct, as it doesn't rely on unnecessary guesses or complications. This principle is often used in science, problem solving, and even everyday life to avoid overthinking things. For example, if your car won't start, it's probably just a dead battery rather than some sort of rare, complex engine failure, because the battery explanation is simpler and more common. However, Occam's razor isn't a strict rule, it's just a guideline. Sometimes, the more complicated explanation is true, but by starting with the simplest one, that helps you focus on what's most likely without getting lost in wild theories or extra details. So, apply that principle here. Either Tyler Robinson is some form of a patsy, and this assassination was set up by somebody or some government or some group, and the cover-up was very, very sloppy, or Tyler Robinson did do this, but he had no prior history, he had no real motivation, he confessed to everything over the text that we're going to cover in a second. He changed his clothing and disassembled the gun in 15 to 30 seconds. He then reassembled the rifle in the woods to leave it as evidence with a DNA-soaked towel. He also confessed, and yet he's not talking about it. The official story is much more complicated than this other story, Occam's razor. Same thing with Charlie Kirk's wound. Was it really a miracle and the doctors can't explain it, and he was hit at the perfect angle and something stopped the bullet in his body because the gun would have completely destroyed his neck, and it was a complete...
Unfortunately, that's pretty easy for all these like super duper Christian right-wing evangelical people to believe. He was protected by God, and then protecting people. It was God, even though he still got shot in the neck and died, right?
This and that and that. Or was it just a different weapon that was used? I'll let you think on that one. We also can't forget about the guy who claimed immediately after the shooting that he was the shooter. The post-shot chaos right after Charlie Kirk was shot, literally, in my opinion, unfolded almost like a conspiracy script, with immediate, loud, and visible distractions and false positives piling quickly. For example, right after the shooting occurred, there was an elderly man seen and heard running around the scene, screaming out, "I did it," and trying to take credit for Charlie Kirk's killing. Obviously, this guy was immediately tackled and arrested and taken in by the police, even though it was later determined that he had nothing to do with the shooting. But who was this guy? Well, the elderly attendee was later identified as local retiree and semi-famous Utah political figure George Zinn. Now, it's known that George Zinn is innocent and obviously that he didn't carry out the shooting, but who exactly is George Zinn? Well, George Zinn is a 71-year-old Utah political gadfly known for his decades-long presence at Republican events, protests, and even cultural gatherings like the Sundance Film Festival. This guy is like a pretty well-known political figure in the Utah political scene who just pops up at all these notable events and protests and notable times when notable things are happening. It's like George Zinn is always there. It's like, where's Waldo type of thing. Where's George Zinn? And interestingly, George Zinn is known for frequently disrupting proceedings with his libertarian-leaning conservative views. It is interesting though. So let's imagine that there really was something weird going on that day, that something bigger, darker was really playing out. Immediately after the shot was taken at Charlie Kirk, while the guy on the roof is attempting to escape, someone down in the crowd area begins to scream out that he did it, that he's the guy who killed Charlie Kirk, and he starts begging the police to come arrest him. Immediately, chatter goes out across all law enforcement radios in the nearby area, stating that they found the guy, that they were taking him into custody. And at least for a moment there, the police and the authorities are fully distracted. They believe, even if it's just momentarily, that they already have their guy. And so, their attention turns from finding the shooter to treating the wounded and clearing the scene. And this gives the real shooter, whether that's Tyler Robinson or not, ample time to escape the scene completely undetected, which they did while law enforcement officers in the area are already preoccupied with their suspect. It couldn't have been more serendipitous, could it have been? A distraction popped up in the crowd and it worked. People, concert attendees, and law enforcement officers alike were completely distracted, and it gave the shooter just enough time to get away. I mean, I remember my wife telling me about everything that was going on. I was actually recording an episode of the show when I found out about all this. And I remember her telling me they got the guy, they already got the guy, he's some older guy. And then throughout the day, it's like, it's actually not the guy. But then you see the videos where he's, I'm him, I'm the shooter, I'm the guy. And everyone's just running towards him. And I'd imagine the police, yeah, we got him, he's over here in the courtyard. It's like, all the enforcement officers are going to be plugged into that radio signal and they're going to think he's over here, we don't need to look up here, and it helped the guy get away. Now, even more interestingly, after he was arrested for obstruction, amongst other charges, George Zinn was actually charged with the possession of CSAM materials that were found on his phone, meaning that, yes, this guy George Zinn is also a... Could this material have been planted on his phone to keep him silent? Was George Zinn silenced? Was this stuff found on his phone to make him look crazy or untrustable in the eyes of the masses in case he were to ever spill the true story about what happened, who may have hired him to create the distraction? Or is this guy really just some crazy kook that actually wanted to take credit for the shooting for some reason and is a... I don't know, but it's really also strange. Now, after the Charlie Kirk shooting, a $1 million reward was posted for information relating to the capture of the shooter by a guy named Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman is a name that regularly pops up in conspiracy circles, but in short, he's a billionaire businessman. And interestingly enough, Bill Ackman's wife, Neri Oxman, has been under fire for the last few years. Why? Well, in 2015, she accepted a $125,000 donation to her MIT lab, which funded research from none other than, drumroll please, our favorite guy, Jeffrey Epstein. Kind of strange, right? Jeffrey Epstein is even popping up in the story, even if it's through some sort of 6 degrees of separation connection. Epstein's connected to this guy's wife who's offering the reward. It's kind of strange, right? Nah, must just be some big weird coincidence. But one of the biggest inconsistencies in all of this that people constantly point out are the text messages that were released by the FBI, allegedly sent between Tyler Robinson and his lover/roommate. These text messages, the prosecutor's supposed smoking gun evidence, unfold as a sort of thespian tragedy, with their verbosity seeming to clash with Gen Z's brevity, humor, and lingo. Released in Utah court, the following is the full transcript of the text exchange between Tyler Robinson and his romantic partner/roommate Lance Twiggs, as released in court documents and reported by Newsweek on September 16, 2025. The messages occurred shortly after the shooting on September 10th, but there are no specific timestamps provided in the sources. They're formatted as a dialogue separated by speaker. And note that some of these messages from Robinson are multi-part or run-on as they were originally reported and released. So the texts went as follows. Lance: what? You're joking, right? Tyler: I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I'd hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. Lance: you weren't the one who did it, right? Tyler: I am. I'm sorry. Lance: I thought they caught the person. Tyler: no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Lance: why? Tyler: why did I do it? Lance: yeah. Tyler: I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again, hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Lance: how long have you been planning this? Tyler: a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Tyler: I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge ooh on Fox News, I might have a stroke. Alright, I'm gonna have to leave it. That really sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle.
This is so ridiculous. Like, you'd be shaking in your boots if you did something like this and you actually want to get away with it. And this is like so incriminating. What's the point in getting the rifle if you're just going to casually have this conversation? You know, we all know that all this information can be found and documented.
He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm gonna turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. You are all I worry about, love. Lance: I'm much more worried about you. Tyler: don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. So, those are the messages. And many people across the political spectrum have stated that these texts seem fake or fabricated. For starters, what's the template here? These are the actual documents that show how they released these texts. Like, this is like on screen an actual document from the government showing these text messages. Like, why do these messages look like this? I've never seen text messages released by law enforcement that look like these do. They just straight off the bat literally look fake. There are also no timestamps provided in the original source. This is literally just words on paper. Now, many people have pointed out that this conversation doesn't feel like a conversation that two younger people would have with one another. It feels, really scripted. The lingo used also seems to be from an older generation, and as many have pointed out, it doesn't really sound like something a Gen Z person would type. As one user on Reddit pointed out, there are many reasons why people
This Erica Kirk possibly indicated some organization to children that want to talk random in the discussion. I'm assuming you guys know more. There's a video that a guy named Izzy made about her that I was thinking about maybe reacting to on here too, about Erica Kirk and all the weirdness. So keep an eye out for that.
Believe that these messages were fabricated, and many questions that people have about the messages themselves. Questions like, as many have pointed out already, who talks like this? There's a ton of cop language in here like squad car, sweep, etc. Perhaps the most damning is the texts say uwu instead of owu, which is the meme and what was written on the bullets. Why would Robinson mess up his own meme? This makes no sense. It's super improbable that this internet troll, who was refusing to cooperate with law enforcement, would conveniently send messages to his roommate / partner / whatever that contain everything they need to pin a motive on the far left. Why were these court documents released at all? That doesn't usually happen, right? Quote, remember when I was engraving bullets?
Also, just like anybody who is like an actual leftist, like left-leaning person, understands that Charlie Kirk being assassinated is a net negative for leftists, for the entire country in general. It's been used as a way to galvanize and evangelicalize a lot of people. Hey Bill, good to see you. So appreciate it. Appreciate the donation, bud. So it just doesn't make sense from a standpoint of somebody who's supposed to be this supposed, and apparently the roommate was like his trans like secret lover or something, which also goes with this narrative that trans people are dangerous that they're coming out with, because like I said, Nazis need to have a target that is both weak and powerless but also dangerous, and they're going to out to get you at any moment. And that's what trans people are right now. So, you know, they make up less than 1% of the country, but yet are like target number one right now.
End quote. And he didn't explain why. Like, he didn't really say anything about that. He just put that information into text.
That's also, oh no.
Runs over to the Tyler.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. But I didn't see anybody set up a crime scene. That's crazy. Yeah, I never thought about that.
I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again, hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Lance, how long have you been planning this? Tyler, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think
so. I was able to find pretty fast. There was a crime scene. They did do all that.
The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is
You just gotta Google it real quick.
Very unique. People have pointed out that this conversation doesn't feel like a the crime would then leave the smoking gun evidence, literally the gun, gift wrapped with a DNA-soaked towel directly near the crime scene, and then text his partner a full-on confession to almost every element of the crime itself, and then confess to his parents. Add in the fact that Tyler Robinson still has not admitted guilt or even talked to investigators, and it seems like we have some sort of cover-up brewing. I've even seen posts where people have asked AI to analyze those text exchanges, and AI models have actually stated that they believed that, due to some of the wording and verbiage, these texts were likely AI generated. But we'll leave that rabbit hole for another day. Then there's the Cameragate controversy, which featured two mysterious figures. The first mysterious figure seen in footage on the day of the shooting was one initially positioned on nearby rocks, seen on video recording with a phone pressed to his ear, looking chillingly calm, as if he's contacting his handler or his boss that wants an update on the crime itself. Amidst the surrounding pandemonium, that mysterious figure who was just on the phone then quickly runs over to the stage and onto Charlie Kirk's chair in order to retrieve a camera from the stage setup that was facing the crowd at the time that the shot was fired, the camera obviously being an item that should have remained untouched as a staple of crime scene preservation. The same mysterious figure was then seen on video removing the SD card from the camera and taking the footage recorded on that camera with him. The individual was identified as being a longtime Turning Point USA member, according to Candace Owens' September 17th podcast, and his reasoning for grabbing the camera and camera card, as relayed to Candace during their alleged conversation, was to secure the footage for handover to federal authorities following the post-chaos check-in with his colleagues. Now, Candace herself actually claims that this employee allowed her to take a look at the footage from that camera over FaceTime. And during that private FaceTime peek at the footage, Candace stated that she saw no blood and no gore coming from Charlie Kirk's neck from the back angle, which clashed starkly with the frontal trauma depicted in public videos and raised questions about the initial hunt for a loose bullet. This is interesting. So clearly, according to Kansas, according to now we're saying the surgeon and Turning Point, clearly Charlie Kirk did not have an exit wound on the back of his neck after the shooting. And the federal authorities, like the FBI, after taking just one simple look at Charlie Kirk's body, would have and should have known that there was no exit wound and that the bullet was more than likely still lodged within Charlie Kirk's neck. Yet initially, the FBI stated that they were searching the area near where Charlie's body fell for the bullet. And this creates yet another discrepancy in the investigative approach. I mean, if they had looked at Charlie's body, they would have seen that the bullet was still in his body. Yet they publicly stated that they were still desperately searching for the bullet in that area. It makes no sense. You're the FBI. Are you not going to examine both sides of the corpse, look for an exit wound before trying to find the bullet? You're the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That seems like it should be the first point of your investigation. If you're looking for a damn bullet, check the bullet wound to make sure it's not still in there. Yet they publicly announced that they're looking for the bullet, assumedly showing that they, I guess, just didn't look for it. Didn't check the bullet wound. There's also a CNN report from September 20th that highlights a potential HIPAA breach, a HIPAA breach that may have occurred when Charlie Kirk's surgeon leaked statements about Charlie Kirk's wounds to the press and to members of Turning Point USA. There's also TMZ's release of doorbell camera footage that they obtained that shows Tyler Robinson walking down a street near a business called Caldera Engineering, a valve firm with reported Israeli ties and SCADA monitored systems that are vulnerable to cyber threats. And the reveal of this business being in close proximity to Tyler Robinson sparked a flurry of emails to Candace Owens' inbox, emails that discussed CISA and NSA oversight and the CIA/intelligence community's connections to the valve industry. The valve industry being associated with that Caldera Engineering that was close to Tyler Robinson. And according to Kansas, I haven't verified this information, but there were people on that street that Tyler Robinson was walking down that had connections themselves to the valve industry, which is highly connected to the CIA. And that in itself is an extremely strange little rabbit hole. The niche piping industry's government contracts, including alleged CIA pipelines that had been installed at or near Utah Valley University, where the shooting took place, have only added layers to the intrigue around all this. There's also a bizarre image captured after the shooting that shows Tyler Robinson inside of a Dairy Queen just 15 minutes away from the UVU campus. The snapshot was taken at 6:38 p.m. that day, over 6 hours after the shooting took place, just 15 minutes away. And he seems so chill. It doesn't look like this guy just assassinated one of the most high-profile figures in America a few hours ago, but there's also an even stranger connection in this photograph. Remember how Charlie Kirk's friend and others have claimed that he was a man of steel? And that's a direct quote. Because his body stopped that high-powered bullet from exiting his body and hurting others, they literally call him a man of steel. Well, if you look closely at the photo of Tyler Robinson inside of the Dairy Queen, he appears to be standing in front of a poster for the new Superman movie. If you don't know, Superman's nickname is the Man of Steel, and that movie came out back in July. And right now, it's Wednesday, September 24th. I don't know why they would still have a Superman poster in a Dairy Queen. And then there's the Man of Steel connection and the tweets and the posts. Is this just a connection, or is this somebody laughing in our faces? I don't really know. I can't make any sort of judgment call, but it's incredibly weird. This synthesis reveals a flux in the origin story, magical feats with the rifle assembly, wonders defying ballistics in the wound, theatrical elements into texts, chaos surrounding the camera handling, and intriguing ties to infrastructure, all of which demand the release of full reports and footage for verification. Occam's razor points to a narrative requiring maximal assumptions here rather than the simplest explanation. The maximal assumptions explanation, which Occam's razor says is the least likely, is the FBI story, where you have to jump through all these hoops and jump everywhere, all over the place to make this thing work. Like the timeline that doesn't make sense, the changing, the disassembling the rifle, the rebuilding it in the woods, the complete confessions over text message, the fact that he was really smart about what he was doing and then he was just like completely stupid as hell, the changes in behavior, the lack of a confession, an actual confession from Tyler Robinson, the conflicting evidence, the conflicting reports, just the strangeness, the distraction, George Zinn in the crowd. You have to, all of that goes into the FBI story, but the simplest explanation would be that there's no exit wound, not because of a miracle, but because it was fired from a different weapon. And instead of assembling and deassembling and doing this and that to the gun, maybe it was just a smaller gun from a different angle. I don't know. There's so much information here and so much that just doesn't really make sense. It would be hard to talk about it all. For example, there's also the fact that there were people recording as the shot rang out that day, people that didn't even flinch. They were standing in the immediate area, yet the gunshot itself wasn't even loud enough to cause these individuals to really react. Just take a look.
What's that?
Holy Holy There's been a shooting. We heard shots. We heard shots. You guys okay? Okay, love you. Be safe.
Even in the initial videos of the shooting, when the shot rings out, it seems like most of the people in the crowd don't really even react.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
It's 5. Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm gonna give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
If it really was such a loud boom, a boom that was echoing down into an amphitheater where sound is gonna vibrate and shake and dart off of all of those walls and kind of like amplify, wouldn't there be a great flinching type reaction from the entire crowd at the same time? These are just questions that I have. And also, where are all the other angles from that day? Where's the other footage? I can assume that there were a lot more people that were recording that afternoon at the moment that Charlie Kirk was shot. You can see in some of the clips that a lot of people in the crowd actually had their phones out and appeared to have been recording at the exact time that Kirk was shot. But why haven't we seen their angles? Are they being suppressed? It's so strange to me.
Okay. I was standing from probably the third row in the bottom. I heard the shot ring out. I looked to my left and then I looked over to my right. I saw him slump over in his chair forward. He slumped over. He had blood coming from the left side of his neck down his shirt, and he slumped over and he was carried off. Get off me! Get off me!
Emotions are running high right now.
Usually, as with any other tragic event, those other angles would have been posted right after the shooting itself directly to all social media platforms. People usually post that stuff, and I would imagine that they would have with the event that they caught on camera being international news. And yet, I've really only seen a few select angles out of the dozens, if not hundreds, that were being recorded at the time. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, you also have to look at what else was going on that day in the world. What were they doing? Well, they voted against releasing the Epstein files that day. That would have been the biggest news story of the day. It would have looked really bad on Trump, really bad on the administration. People would have just continued to get pissed, and they would have been talking about Epstein for days and weeks again, and Epstein would have been dominating the news cycle. But then all of a sudden this happens to Charlie Kirk, and you're not hearing anything about Epstein anymore. Epstein's out of the news cycle again. Now, I'm not going to get into who could have shot Charlie Kirk, who wanted him dead, or my personal thoughts on everything, but could he have been shot to push a political agenda, to unite a political party? Could he have been shot to distract people from something? Could he have been killed because he was going to come out against a certain nation or a foreign government? Was he killed for his views? Was he killed because someone disliked him? All this that you've seen today is just evidence. This is real evidence that makes no sense to me.
Now, one more thing that I'm going to add in here that I didn't see, or I guess it hadn't happened at the time that I recorded this video initially. Recently, it was announced by Kash Patel himself that now they are looking into potential conspiracies surrounding the murder of Charlie Kirk, which I find to be incredibly interesting. It's essentially, I mean, the conspiracy is that the FBI is covering this up, so it's asking the murderer to solve his victim's crime. It's like the fire extinguisher is on fire, that sort of a thing, where it's just kind of bizarre to me because the FBI are the ones that are accused of facilitating this cover-up and this conspiracy, and I guess he's like investigating himself. I don't really know. Also, I do have to tell you about this really, really strange either coincidence, or I've seen some people online state that this could be a legitimate case of some sort of predictive programming. There was this movie released in the late 90s called Snake Eyes, featuring Nicolas Cage, and this is pretty freaky. So in that film, this speaker, politician, is shot in the neck at this event that they're holding. The speaker's name in the film is Charles Kirkland, and yeah, it's pretty bizarre that there's somebody named Charles Kirkland, Charlie Kirk, getting shot in the neck, assassinated. But it gets even weirder, because if you look at right here, like there's this screenshot here of a billboard that you can see in the film. The actual day in the film that Charles Kirkland is shot and killed is September 10th, which obviously, as we know, is the same day that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed on. And then if you look on that same billboard, you find a couple very strange words, Tyler and executioner, on the billboard, stating September 10th, and that event would go on to be the death of Charles Kirkland. So make of that what you will. I find it to be incredibly eerie and bizarre, but yeah, I'm sure everybody online is going to have their own theories. All right, I got to add in one more thing. Now I just saw that they've actually torn down the area where the shooting happened, and they poured new concrete there and I guess remodeled the area. It's incredibly bizarre, top to bottom, this entire story, but it's all these little details that surround the story that just don't add up, that are ridiculously strange. Like this. Look at this picture. Does this make sense to you?
But today, just today, we're actually seeing something extremely familiar playing out. The common trope that we've already seen before in this very story that I've seen people already questioning. Just this morning in Dallas, Texas, I live in Houston and my sister lives in Dallas, so I heard about this pretty quickly. A man opened fire on an ICE facility, coincidentally, a sniper, once again, from the top of a building. He killed 2 detainees in the ICE center and injured one more who is now in critical condition. However, this should be stressed, no ICE agents were hurt. Once again, the shooter left conveniently engraved messages on the bullets, letting the people of America know why he was shooting and what party or people to get angry at. He spelled it out very quickly so that it could be easily used for some sort of political motivation. And then, before the man could be taken in for any questioning or asked any questions at all, he self-deleted himself right up there on the rooftop. And what do you know, just hours after the shooting was finished, here we have once again Kash Patel, the paragon of truth, once again stoking the flames, tweeting out pictures of bullets and sharing crucial evidence before a full investigation has really even begun. Now, is this information being shared because he wants to sway the narrative? Because he wants people to get upset? What is the point of all of this? I'll let you decide that for yourselves. Now, why don't you let me know? I don't like the government either way. I mean, I don't trust any of them, and I think that the government is always going to act in its own interests. And right now, that's the current administration. And I think that can be said about any administration. So there are a lot of motivations to unpack here and potential characters in the story and lots of angles that I didn't explore. But I didn't want this to go down like the true rabbit hole of conspiratorial thought. I wanted this to be a video that anybody who's on the edge could watch and then say, yeah, that just doesn't make sense, you know? So let me know your thoughts. I'm really eager to hear what everyone else has to say in the comment section of this video, because I'm sure people are pretty passionate about what they believe really happened here and what we're going to find out in the future. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you want to listen to the fully uncensored version of this show, please consider joining me on Patreon. And yeah, I know I've put out a lot of videos lately, but there's just so much I want to cover and just so many things I want to talk about. So I hope you weren't bored by this one. I hope it made sense. I've been writing all these last few episodes, so been all me, and it's been a lot of work, but I really care about this stuff. And yeah, to all of you who have subscribed, thank you for joining the family. And to those of you who watched one of my videos for the first time with this video, thank you for watching and welcome on in. My name's Colin Brown. You can check out my podcast, Murder in America, that I co-host with my wife, Courtney, or watch my other YouTube channel, The Paranormal Files. Make sure to like the video, leave me a comment with your thoughts, share the video out. These videos depend on you guys.
Link in
Stay
description.
suspicious, keep that tinfoil hat on, always question everything. And I'll see you guys next week.
So the video is linked in the description, the original video. Please give it a like, comment on it, yada yada. Thanks for being here. I'm going to try to put out at least one video every day moving forward, because I'm done hiding. I don't want to hide from the world anymore. I've been pretty ashamed of the things that I did at Montauk and in the programs, and they want me to be ashamed of myself and guilty all the time so I don't go out in the world and do stuff. That's what they want. I don't want to let them win anymore. So part of that has been, yes, like sometimes I got to slow down, take a break from my mental health, but sometimes I'm just hiding from the world because I'm afraid of being seen. And that's like a program. So I'm going to try to stop doing that so much. And I really appreciate all your support and for being here. And like I said, I got a show this Sunday with Riley Nusk, Ashton Riley. We're going to be talking about Kruger Mercenary Group, which is a mercenary group, time travel, cloning, all that stuff, sci-fi mercenary group. Well, sci-real, not sci-fi. It's not fiction, but you know what I mean. From an alternate reality that does work with this reality and gets contracted out and does stuff in this reality pretty often. They're famous across realities. Kruger Mercenary Group. They're some of the best of the best. Oh yeah, that's right. I should maybe end with the song and remind you all, hey, what a legend. Jason. It's Bandcamp Friday, so if you want to support my music, all the money goes towards me. Lot.bandcamp.com. And I guess I could end the show with some music of mine, really. Yeah. This song right here is gonna be on the album. So yeah.